I'm Michaela Kathleen, and I am not baking in this video, but I am doing the British Baking Show book tag, so I thought it would be fun to look the part. I saw this video over on Jack Edwards' channel, Jack in the Books, and much like him, I'm just tagging anyone who watches. But my husband is a huge fan of the British Baking Show, the Great British Baking Show, and he's gotten me to watch it, and so I thought it would be a fun tag to do. So the first prompt on the Great British Baking Show book tag is Amateur Baker, pick a self-published book. And for this one, I'm gonna go with Oracle of the Horses by Kathleen Miller. This one was self-published by the daughter of someone my mom worked with at her previous job, like 15 years ago. She was about 13 or 14 at the time, which I was as well, and she actually got her local Barnes & Noble, our local Barnes & Noble, to sell copies in their stores, and they even held a book signing for her, which was pretty cool. So this is a signed copy, a nice long signature in fact, and I actually really enjoyed this book as a kid. I think I still enjoy reading it. It's been a while since I've read it. You can definitely tell it was written by a 13 or 14-year-old, but the story is enjoyable. It's just a little fantasy novel about magical people who like pair bond with different animals, and it is like their job to protect that species of animal on the planet. And our main character obviously becomes the Oracle of the Horses. So super fun for me as a kid because it was about animals and magic, and I liked both of those things. Prompt number 2 is Soggy Bottom. What is a book that you liked the beginning but were disappointed by the end? And for me, I'm gonna go with The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. I reread this one recently. I remembered not loving it. Bo is looking out the window. I remember not loving it the first time I read it, but I liked it well enough to keep it. And upon reread, I think I do really like the beginning of the book quite a bit. It's not like fantastic 5-star read at the beginning, but I do like it quite a bit. And then the end is just a little bit too messy for me, a little bit too back and forth. Prompt number 3 is #Bingate, which I wasn't really familiar with when I watched the tag because I'm not like a super huge fan of the Great British Baking Show. I haven't seen all the seasons. My husband got me into it when they were already many seasons into this show, although we have gone back and watched a few select things that he liked. Like, I feel like he's shown me like season finales for seasons where he really liked the winner. But regardless, I was not familiar with this particular Great British Baking Show drama. I have since found out that essentially someone took someone's food out of the freezer and it melted, and so they just threw it in the bin. And some people debate whether or not that was even necessary, and apparently it was a whole lot of drama. But the question for this prompt is, what is a book that you DNF'd? And my most recent partial DNF was The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. This was one of Barnes & Noble's Book of the Years, which I've read all 5 of their first 5 Book of the Years. It was like a little project of mine. And this is one that just didn't land for me. I just kind of skimmed the final 100 pages of this book. I feel like there were too many characters being followed in this book and not enough was happening with any of them. And definitely not enough was happening with my favorite characters. There was a lot happening with those characters, but we didn't get to see them very much because we were following so many other characters. And so yeah, this one just didn't work for me. Prompt number 4 is Junior Baker. Pick a children's book. And I've gotten into kind of a habit of reading children's books around Christmas time every year. And this year, all of the children's books I read were kind of disappointing. So I went back another year to look at the children's books I had read the previous Christmas 2022. And I decided to pick The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. This is kind of a prequel to the Narnia series. And I read most of the Narnia series as a kid, but not all of them. And I had read The Magician's Nephew. I didn't own any of them anymore. And I remembered really disliking The Magician's Nephew in particular among that series, although I generally like the series as a whole, although I also didn't finish it. But on reread, The Magician's Nephew was just not as bad as I remembered it to be. It was a fun book. I didn't keep it, I gave it to my nephew, but I was kind of glad that I reread it and rewrote my memory of it. Prompt number 5 is Hollywood Handshake. Everyone on the Great British Baking Show is just praying for a handshake from Paul Hollywood, one of the judges. It is his highest praise. So the question for this one is, what is a book that impressed you? And the book most recently to impress me is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is my most recent new read that was 5 stars. So very impressive for me. I don't give out 5 stars super often. And I'm also not like generally super into romances. So the fact that this was a romance and 5 stars was surprising. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute and just really well done and engaging throughout. Prompt number 6 is Showstopper Challenge. What is an all-time fave? And my probably biggest all-time fave is The Last Book in the Universe by Rodman Philbrick. This is a dystopian novel that takes place in a future in which nobody reads anymore, hence the title. And this one has just been in my life since childhood, and it's really small, so I've read it literally countless times. Prompt number 7 is The Finalists. Pick a favorite trilogy. And my very favorite trilogy is probably Uglies, but I'm using that kind of for the next prompt. So I'm going to go with The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This is a dystopian series that just really holds up in comparison to really any other dystopian YA, just as far as like the seriousness of the topics and how they're handled and like the just real quality of the series. And then the final prompt is Extra Slice. What is a favorite companion novel of yours? And I don't read companion novels very often. I have very few on my shelf. So I think this one has to go to Extras by Scott Westerfeld. This is a companion novel to the Uglies trilogy. And while I still do not like it as much as the original trilogy, it is pretty good and I still have it on my shelves. So that's saying something for a companion novel for me. This one is just still a lot of fun. So that was it for the Great British Baking Show book tag. I have not done a tag in quite some time, so it was fun to do one again. I hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, words matter.